Frank Vatrano and the Ducks put up their best performance, or maybe their best effort of the season, against a Vegas team who probably didn't put up their best effort. We'll talk about that and more on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade, and today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it's a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. As I mentioned, I've been covering hockey for over a decade, and with that game, this now concludes my 5th full season covering the Anaheim Ducks, specifically for the Locked On Podcast Network. So, thanks to those of you that have stuck around for the last few years. Yes, they have been lean years, and yes, 4 of those seasons included the Dallas Eakins era, but now that year 1 of the Greg Cronin era has concluded, just initial thoughts down in the comments. What did you think of the season in general? I know what most of you are going to say, but I'll get to that momentarily. First, I want to talk about Frank Vatrano. Frank Vatrano is part of the engine that makes this Ducks team go. Now, you can make an argument that Trevor Zegras is part of that engine that makes a team go, and there's a strong argument for that, because as Z goes, so does the rest of the team. But Frank Vatrano, I think, is just as important to this Ducks team, if not more. Well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say more important, but Frank Vatrano is definitely one of the more important players on this Ducks team. It should also be pointed out that Frank Vatrano has one more year left on his contract, and at the amount of money that he's making, I would say that the Frank Vatrano signing is the best contract signing under the Pat Verbeek era. I would say signing, not extension. I'd say the best extension so far would go to Troy Terry, but the best contract so far in 2 seasons would go to Frank Vatrano. In 2 seasons, he has missed only 1 game. He was the only Anaheim Duck that played all 82 games this season, and I'll definitely talk about that on a future podcast because that's worth mentioning. But in all 82 games, 37 goals. Yeah, 37 goals, 23 assists, good enough for 60 points. Congrats to Frank Vatrano on hitting the 60-point mark. By far a career high for him. 37 goals, also by far a career high. Well, wait a minute, Jason. If he got to 37 goals and he had 34 before, that would mean that he got a hat trick? Yes. Frank Vatrano got his 3rd hat trick of the season against the Vegas Golden Knights. And I got to talk about that for a hot second. Frank Vatrano, with his 3rd hattie of the season, joins a very select list of Anaheim Ducks with 3 hat tricks in a season. Teemu Selanne got 3 hatties in the 97-98 season. Corey Perry did it twice, his MVP year in 2011 and 2015. That's it. That's the list. So for only the fourth time in franchise history has a player gotten 3 hat tricks in a season. Not even Paul Kariya's on that list. Although, to be fair, Paul Kariya got 2 hatties a bunch of times in 1 season, and Paul Kariya is still one of the best players of all time, but he never got to 3. He never got to 3. So for Frankie to hit that 3rd one, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty solid deal. So congrats to Frank Vatrano getting 3 hatties in a season. In 2 years, he's gotten 101 points, 59 goals in 2 seasons. It's pretty solid, averaging 29.5 goals per season. Also very good. Also, Frank Vatrano is among a select group of Ducks that have scored at least 35 goals in a season. In fact, I'm going to go to 35 plus goals a season just to add one more name on this list. Here are the Ducks that have scored 35 or more goals in a season. Teemu Selanne, Corey Perry, Paul Kariya, Troy Terry, Bobby Ryan, and now Frankie. Frank Vatrano is the 6th Anaheim Duck to score 35 goals or more in a season. Those names I listed, those are pretty elite names. Teemu Selanne, number retired. Paul Kariya, number retired. Corey Perry, yeah, he'll probably have his number retired. He probably will. Troy Terry, when it's all said and done, that could happen. Bobby Ryan, you know what? Still beloved amongst, some Anaheim fans. And he was still a big part of that team in 2010. So for what it's worth, Frank Vatrano does join that elite list of players. So I think it's a big deal to be considered among the best players in Ducks history, even though he's only been here 2 seasons. God, I hope that he gets extended before the end of next season. Now, I know there are some saying Frank Vatrano only has 1 year left on his contract, and if the Ducks have a bad start, he might be a trade chip for the... No. You know what? I know the Ducks have traded a lot of players on the trade deadline in recent years. Vatrano, I think, is one of those guys that, honestly, I would like the Ducks to keep him. I would. And he would be extremely deserving of so. And you see how good the Ducks are when they have almost a full complement of players. They put up that big effort against Vegas last night. On the very rare occasions where all the big guns actually played, they looked good. They looked very good. And Anaheim, on the, again, rare occasion that most of their big guns or all of their big guns played, they looked successful. They had just about a 500 record, a little above a 500 record. That's what this team is capable of. They're capable of putting up 3, 4, 5 goals a game. And when you have Dostal being the dosed wall, when the bakery's closed, you can bet your ass that the Ducks are going to put up a big effort like they did in last night's game in Vegas. That was a monumental effort. And Frank Vatrano being in the midst of it, that is one of the best performances of the season. And I'll talk more about the game itself. But before I get to the game itself, Frank Vatrano is amongst the players that have put up some of the best single game performances as far as game score on HockeyStatCards.com. Frank Vatrano does have the best single game performance this season, a 5.13 game score that he put up very early on in the season, October 15th, one of his better games of the year. Just to go back to that game in particular, because that's one that I remember specifically, is Frank Vatrano was all over the place in that game. That was his first hat trick of the year. That was against the Carolina Hurricanes. He was all over. He was bodying up players. He even took a penalty there, if I remember correctly. He also had the game-winning goal against the Carolina Hurricanes. Kind of like this one, except this one, he had a power play goal. He had a short-handed goal. Yes, he had a short-handed goal. It was an empty netter, but it was a shorty. It counts for that. Then he had the regular strength goal. So Frank Vatrano, I think, was by far the most important player for the Ducks in this particular game. But it's been like that all season long. And when you take Adam Henrique out of the equation because he got traded, Frank Vatrano had the top average game score amongst Anaheim Ducks. Frank Vatrano, average game score of .46. Hey, he finished in positives. Troy Terry, .45. Mason McTavish, .39. And then you have Gustav Lindstrom, if you can believe that, at .37, along with Leo Carlsson and Alex Killorn. So, kind of a big deal Frank Vatrano is to this team. Okay, more than a big deal, folks. He's more than a big deal on this team. And I cannot wait to see him with the Ducks next season. I hope that he can play all 82 games again next season. And I think it'd be beneficial to the Ducks if they keep him around. You want someone that is going to be in the lineup every day. You want someone that is going to be reliable. I mean, how often have the Ducks had a player that you can rely on, and you know that you're going to get a terrific effort. You know that you're going to get a massive amount of points in this season. You know that you're going to get a concerted effort on both sides of the puck. So I want to see him stick around next season, but that's a conversation that we're going to have a lot this summer. All right, we're going to head to the first intermission and talk about this game itself. The last game of the Ducks regular season. Stay locked in. Now a brief word from Policy Genius. Now, Policy Genius is, the leading online insurance marketplace. Saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that begin at just $292 per year. That's $292 for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. And Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies and their team of licensed experts that are on hand to help walk you through it. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you are locked in with Jason JD Hernandez, and we're going to talk about this great effort that the Ducks put up against the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, I should point out, before I talk about the game itself, the Vegas Golden Knights had a 1-point lead over the Los Angeles Kings before going into last night's games. The Los Angeles Kings played at home against the Blackhawks, and of course, Vegas played at home against the Anaheim Ducks. Most people were thinking, okay, Vegas probably going to win. Yeah, that's what most fans were thinking. Kings probably going to win there as well. And would the Kings rather play the Edmonton Oilers for the third year in a row, or would they rather travel to Dallas to take on the Stars? Neither scenario is good for the Kings. For Vegas, would they rather play an Edmonton team that they've had some issues with, or would they rather play a Dallas Stars team that they've done pretty well against this season? I'm just going to leave that question out there. I'm not going to imply anything. I'm just saying that Vegas has done well against the Dallas Stars. That being said, first period was probably one of those periods that made some fans cringe, made some fans fall asleep. The first 10 minutes, the Ducks hardly had the puck. Vegas jumped out to like a 5-0, I think 6-0 lead in shots on goal. Vegas dominated puck possession. They had their good shots, but thanks to Lukáš Dostal, he saved their butts once again, stopping as many pucks as possible, stopping every puck in that first period. Anaheim finally starting to get some momentum towards the end of the first period. They were starting to get better possession. They were starting to do something. Great. Second period. Ducks kind of came alive on that one. No, actually, I'll rephrase that. Frank Vatrano came alive on that one, but so did Trevor Zegras. And what I liked about this game in particular with Z was when he had the puck on his stick, there was a great tendency to not turn the puck over. Oh my God, do you know how many times I've seen, especially the bottom two lines, they even get the puck for a few seconds, try to bring it up out of the neutral zone, they try to cross the blue line, and they just can't do it. They just, here you go, here's the puck, and they just give it up like nothing. I saw that happen a lot on this game, folks. We all did. But for Zegras, he had no issue with that. None. And it was great. I loved seeing Z out there on the ice. Loved it. And as far as the power play is concerned, which the Ducks had but one power play the entire game. Yeah, it was Mike Amadio who hooked Jakob Silfverberg. And by the way, Silfverberg didn't play a lot of this game. He actually went to the bench and he injured himself. But we'll talk about Jakob Silfverberg on the third part of this program. On the Ducks' one and only power play, was there some concern that it was the older guys out there? Yeah, some. Did it matter? No. Because Frank Vatrano got his 35th goal of the season from Fowler and Stromer, made it 1-0 Ducks. I should also point out that at about the same time, it was a 1-0 game at, I can't believe it's not Staples Center. And then at about the same time that the Kings Blackhawks game was tied up at 1, the Vegas Anaheim game was also tied at 1, also on the power play. Jack Eichel, I know. He shot it from a distance. He had a good shot. That was Jack's 31st goal of the season. He can't quite catch Frankie. But it was on the power play. And this was only a few seconds into the power play. Just right away, Vegas gained possession, passed the puck around. Jack Eichel just flung it towards the net. Got it past Lukáš Dostal. I'm not sure if there was that big of a screen or not, but it was effective. So the Ducks and Vegas tied at 1 goal apiece. Oh, here we go again. So we go into the third period. Vegas, I don't know what Vegas did coming out of that locker room in the third period. I'm not going to imply anything, but again, Vegas does well against Dallas Stars this season. Did they watch what was going on in Los Angeles? Did they see that? Did they see the Kings score? Did they? I don't know. But you know who came out? The Ducks. The Ducks came out full force. Jackson Lacombe broke the ice, broke the tie, making it 2-1. And on that goal, by the way, Leo Carlsson, I think, deserves a lot of credit for that goal. Because he moved around, around the boards and had excellent control of the puck and had a pinpoint pass to Cutter Gauthier, who played in his NHL debut, by the way, and got it over to Jackson Lacombe, who scored his second of the season, which meant that Cutter Gauthier gets his first NHL point on his NHL debut. So congrats to Cutter Gauthier on his first point. And by the way, there will be another podcast coming later about the young guys. And Cutter Gauthier is going to be talked about a lot. So 2-1. And just a few seconds after that, Trevor Zegras doing a terrific job preventing Vegas from gaining control of the puck. Passed it right to Stromer, who got it right to Frank Vatrano. Scores his second of the game, 36th of the season. 3-1 Anaheim. So wait, that happened in only a minute and a half, where Anaheim just came out with all the momentum and all the energy. Where was this all season? You know what it was? Partially the Cutter Gauthier effect. That line with Leo and Cutter, that looked good. That looked really, really good. Imagine a full season of that. And then you have Frank and Trevor. Imagine a full season of that. I know lines are kind of being played with a little bit, and those might not be the lines going into next year, but can you imagine having all those guys together? Woo! I'm just imagining it right now. Like, give me a few seconds just to kind of ponder, just to kind of look up, like, what would that be like if you had all those guys together for all of next season? Let me just visualize it. Okay. Z and Frankie, same line, most of the season. Yeah, I could see Frankie getting 35 goals again next season. Now let me just imagine Cutter and Leo together. Oh yeah, yep, that's good. That's really good. I love it. Oh man, goals on goals on goals. Oh baby, that is just pristine, perfect. Oh, love it. Yeah, that line could put up 50 goals next. But again, let me be optimistic about next season too. Let me be optimistic, because what else do I have? Oh, but we weren't done yet. Vegas just could not solve Lukáš Dostal, who made terrific save after terrific save a couple of semi-acrobatic saves from Lukáš Dostal, which made me say the bakery's closed, baby. And then tail end of the game, Frank Vatrano has an open net, and this happens partially because the Ducks took a penalty. This was a light penalty. I don't think this should have been called, personally, but Troy Terry got caught hooking, and it was a hook, I guess, but it was a minuscule hook. Not much there. Okay, fine. And there was 2 minutes left. So the last 2 minutes, Vegas is going to go on the power play. But they pull their goalie. They pulled Aiden Hill with 2 minutes left to make it a 6-on-4 for the rest of the game. That would have been for the rest of the game. And it was. Oh, but because it was a shorthanded situation, the Ducks could ice the puck without it being icing because it was a penalty kill. So they flung it down a couple of times, and finally... Oh, by the way, Lukáš Dostal. I want to see him keep going for goalie goals. I know he thought about it, didn't really have a good shot at it, but I think Lukáš Dostal, there was like a bit of emotion. Could have tried it, but didn't. But Frank Vatrano tried it, and he nailed it for the hat trick. I did notice a couple of hats went on the ice. I saw it. Those Ducks fans that traveled to Vegas, a couple of them threw hats in Vegas. That was super cool. So that completed that hat trick. That completes the game. Ducks finished the season on a high note, and I would say the Ducks finished the season on a positive note going into next year. 4-1 is the final score, and the Ducks complete the season with 59 points, which, hey, it's 1 point better than last season. 1 point. Yeah, you know what? I don't care. I'll take it. I will take the slight improvement between seasons. Sure. Let's head to the break. Let's do that. Final break of the regular season. We got to give our kudos to Jakob Silfverberg on the other side. Now a brief word from Monopoly Go. Now, I've been told I'm a super competitive person. That's absolutely true. That is. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. A great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, like Amsterdam or Las Vegas, where the Ducks beat the Vegas Golden Knights. Building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is mess with my friends. I can charge them rent on iconic properties like Classic Monopoly. I can heist their vaults of riches for myself, and leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. You can team up with friends and people from all around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game with downloading Monopoly Go, free on the App Store or Google Play. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. We're approaching 870 episodes. We're approaching 880. I suspect that I will get to 900 episodes by the summer. And yeah, 900, big number. And the plan is to stick around for at least one more season talking about this team. So just, getting that out there. We got to close talking about Jakob Silfverberg. We have to. Jakob Silfverberg didn't get any points on this night, and that's a shame. Jakob Silfverberg didn't even play a whole lot of minutes in this game because he was out for most of it due to injury. But he did play 11 minutes, and, he was fine out there. He finished the game, and that was cool. That was cool to see him get the work done and see him finish out the game. He does finish with a positive game score on Hockey Stat Cards, so at least he finishes on a positive note as far as that's concerned. Average game score, .24. Not bad. Jakob Silfverberg, concludes his NHL career with a good amount of goals. He finishes 12 years, 168 goals, 205 assists, 373 career points to wrap up his career. He only missed one game this season, one game last season. He got 19 points this season, matching his rookie year with the Ottawa Senators. So he finishes on a career low. 7 goals, not quite a career low, but as far as 80 full seasons, yeah, it's a career low. It is what it is. Jakob Silfverberg wraps up his season, wraps up his time in the National Hockey League. The plan for him is to go back to his native Sweden, possibly going back to Gävle, and maybe enjoy a winter there. Maybe see Gävlebacken. For those of you that don't know, that's the goat that unceremoniously gets burned every year. Look it up, folks. If you haven't done it yet, look it up. Look up the Gävle goat, but it's spelled Gavle. So some folks say this is the Gävle goat or Gävlebacken, but look it up. It's pretty hilarious. All right. Anyway, tangent. Silfy will go back to his native Sweden, and the plan is to play for his hometown team, which his dad played on for at least a season or two before he finally hangs him up and retires from hockey for good. And you know what? I'm going to make it a point to try to see some of those games from the Swedish League. I want to see how Silfy does to wrap up his hockey playing career. I want to see the fans back in Sweden chanting, "Ooh, ah, Silfverberg." So, you know what? That's how I'll close out today's episode, by the way. Just one more of those chants. What I loved on this particular game, afterwards, the Vegas Golden Knights players lined up. They lined up and made it a point to get right. They made a beeline to Jakob Silfverberg, and every single one of those Vegas Golden Knights players shook his hand after the game. That was a super classy move. Loved every second of that. And that's deserving. Jakob Silfverberg, he was an important part of that Ducks franchise. He played there for 11 seasons. In 11 years, Jakob Silfverberg wound up with 158 goals and 354 career points for the Anaheim Ducks. So he is up there, not top 3, but he is up there amongst the top 10 as far as all-time Ducks for a lot of those statistics, and deservedly so. Jakob Silfverberg also did well in the postseason. He finishes with 16 goals and 41 points in 5 postseasons with the Anaheim Ducks, and that includes a monster postseason in 2015, 18 points in 16 games. He was one of the best players on that Ducks roster, and that's the one that still stings, is the one in 2015, because guys put up some big numbers in that 2015 playoff only to lose to the Chicago Blackhawks in Game 7, and I was definitely rooting for Anaheim on that one. I did not want to see Chicago win that game at all. I was hoping that would break the curse, and it didn't. I think that's the one that still stings the most, because that was the de facto Stanley Cup final. Because either of those teams was going to face the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay was good, but whoever came out of the West that year was going to win the Cup. That's what kind of hurts about that. But that notwithstanding, there was still some very, very good stats as far as the Ducks in the playoffs. I mentioned Jakob Silfverberg, who put up a big number for playoff points. Ryan Getzlaf put up big numbers. Corey Perry put up big numbers. Ryan Kessler had a very important playoff that year, and we kind of forget about that. And Pat Maroon was a big part of that team as well. That team could have gone all the way. Those were players that were in or almost in their primes. But you know what? Silfy was a big part of that team. Also a big part of the team in 2017 that also made it all the way to the Western Conference Final to fall to the Nashville Predators. That's the last time that the Ducks have ever won a playoff series, was in 2017. And Silfy wound up with 9 goals in that postseason in 2017. So he's had some big moments throughout his Ducks career. And he's going to be missed. But you know what he leaves behind? He leaves behind a pretty solid legacy of playing with the Super Swedes, helping guys out when they came in. Isaac Lundestrom has had nothing but good things to say about Jakob Silfverberg. Silfy helped out Lundestrom when he was a rookie, and Silfy helped out young Leo Carlsson in his rookie season. So Silfverberg leaves behind a pretty solid legacy with the Anaheim Ducks, and he will be missed, and I'm sure he'll visit the Ponza once in a while, but good luck to Silfverberg. Enjoy life after hockey, or after NHL hockey, and when it is all finally said and done after playing in Sweden, good luck in retirement. I think I can safely say that all Ducks fans are rooting for him to do well in the Swedish league. So, Jakob Silfverberg, we salute you. Congratulations. That's a great way to finish off this podcast. Now, I know I could have talked about Cutter Gauthier's debut. That's going to be a separate podcast coming later, so be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, ad-free on Amazon. We're also on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter X at StimpyJD. The show's Twitter X is at LO_Ducks. Mailbag will be open next week. LockedOnAnaheimDucks@gmail.com. Thank you for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. And we've come to the end of the regular season. But you know what? It's been one of those years. And the Ducks will be back next season. Better than ever. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great rest of the weekend. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together.